Thank you for downloading this Brum Radio podcast. For more podcasts, visit brumradio.com.
And now, for your listening pleasure, it's the Brum Picture Show, brought to you by Brum Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Brum Picture Show, the weekly film show brought to you by Birmingham-based community cinema collective Screen B14. On this week's show, we're going to be talking about disaster movies to celebrate the release of Twisters, the new blockbuster that has saved 2024's disastrous summer box office figures. My name is Paul Vernon, and I'm afraid to say that this week's episode might be somewhat of a disaster itself, as unfortunately, my regular co-host and collaborator Nadine O'Mahony, who lives in notoriously the tornado capital of the world, has been whisked away to the land of Oz. She is now currently attempting to find her way home with the help of her cat, Meow, who is undoubtedly proving that cats are useless companions compared to dogs and is most likely actively trying to engineer her demise. Now, I am painfully aware that at least half of our listenership are men who stalk Nadine on social media, so I feel I must stress to them, don't worry, you creeps, she will be coming back, so please keep listening to the show, please. Who knows, she may even be able to call into the show later, so do stay tuned, and you might still get to hear her voice. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to be debating films with myself this week because we've had a Brum Picture Show miracle. Now, old school listeners to the show may vaguely remember that we used to have a presenter on this show called Rory, who canonically has died in various comically tragic ways. But I am delighted to say that he has somehow been resurrected, like Lazarus or even the Lord Jesus himself, and judging by his current hairstyle, it would certainly suggest he is the latter. So without further ado, I welcome back to the show a filmmaker and government shill whose life and career has often been described as a disaster. It's Rory Rawson. Welcome back to life, Rory. How was the afterlife and how does it compare to Birmingham?
It's great, yeah. No, I like the afterlife.
Yep.
Yeah, I just wear sandals now all the time and robes.
Cool.
So that's been a new change.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, well, obviously, when you're resurrected, you get really hot. So yeah, your body temperature just goes right up. So yeah, that's been quite nice. But yeah, I've been good. I've been missing this. I've been gone through quite sort of a traumatic time of late.
Oh, so I probably shouldn't have been so frivolous about your absence, really.
Well, no. Part my absence was that sort of traumatic time.
Oh, okay.
So, and I hope you don't mind if I've got a statement which was advised by my solicitor.
Oh my goodness! Yes, you do have an entire A4 page and a half there of statement.
This is the first statement. There's
right.
Multiple. Okay. So if you don't mind, if that's okay.
Okay. Well, I don't feel like I've got a choice, but
I'm okay. So my solicitor, Scott, from Scott Free and Sons, have asked me to release a statement on my absence on the radio show and to quell rumours that are circulating on the radio show, as well as within the wider film community in Birmingham. Yes, it is true that I did travel to the Australian wasteland to create a new settlement in search of masculine grooming products. The settlement, officially titled the People's Republic of Rory Town, but known colloquially as Rory Town. I want to clarify that this was not a cult, and I wasn't a cult leader. That branding was optional, and my wives will corroborate this.
Sorry, this is very serious. Carry on.
Please. This is went through multiple drafts. May I continue? Sorry.
You may. Sorry.
Yeah, I was at the time unaware that my ex-flatmate and supreme leader of Screen B14, Ben Thomas, also travelled to the wasteland in search of grooming products and special edition 4K Blu-ray DVDs. I was only made aware of this when strapped to the bonnet of his monster truck, to which he began draining my blood. I was not aware he contracted a blood-borne disease in the wasteland, and he assured me that all of the blood would be shipped overseas to the British Heart Foundation. Thankfully, I managed to escape in time of this episode, aptly focusing on disaster films.
Oh my goodness! What? Yeah. Well,
So that was the statement. I hope.
okay.
I hope that quells any rumours.
I mean, it doesn't quite quell
Not a cult
all of
leader,
them.
despite looking like Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Are we allowed to imply that Christianity is a cult? Maybe
It is formed cults.
Yeah.
They're all of its cults.
That's true.
Oh no,
Yeah,
Nadine's not here, and we're going to get cancelled.
Oh man!
again.
Well, I don't know. As I've said before, she is often the agent of chaos on this show.
Yeah.
Like she pretends to be sensible, but
yeah, no, I'm really pleased I'm back. In all
Yeah.
seriousness, it's lovely to be back here
Aw.
with you.
Well, bless you, Rory. It is a delight to have you here again.
Thank you.
So, I don't know if you remember, but usually on the show at this point we have a news section. So, has anything caught your eye in the news?
Yeah.
Movie news specifically.
Oh, so not Biden's. No, okay.
No.
Film news. Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
That will be old news. by the
That
time
would be
this
old
goes
news.
out.
That's true. Yeah, not Trump's successful assassination.
Oh God.
Yeah.
No, let's not do a Tenacious D and cancel
No,
ourselves.
of course not.
Already.
Oh, yeah, they did do that.
Yeah,
didn't they?
yeah. Oh, that's kind of movie news in
Yeah, it
itself.
is. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, let's not.
No. Thank God it's not live. Yeah. I obviously went through some news.
Yep. As was the brief.
I'm pretty sure either of you read it and got this isn't worthy of the show.
Yep. I'm looking forward to hearing this.
But, I read an article that this is something about Dave Bautista.
Okay. No, what about him?
Well, apparently,
I know who he is.
yeah, what he likes to do in his films is he tries to sneak the WWE finishing move, the Batista bomb, into every film he plays.
Right.
As a sort of Easter egg to his fans. So I read that, but then in the same article, he said, I have goals onto certain spaces. I want to be an A to Z actor. I want to be in every genre because he feels unfulfilled as an actor.
Right.
So I would say, as a bit of advice,
Yeah.
probably leave the Batista bombs out of
Yeah. It's not really going to work in a court.
in a drama. That's what I mean. I imagine he's doing these sort of emotional historical dramas. He's going, so when's my Batista bomb?
When's the Batista bomb, guys? Yeah.
That wasn't been invented yet.
Yeah, he probably should have kept that to himself because he's probably, he's not going to get cast in certain things for that very reason now.
I think the problem with the Batista bomb, it really shoehorns you into certain roles. Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, I've seen a few of his films. At no point do I actually remember him doing anything that I would describe as a Batista bum. I mean, I don't know what it looks like. I mean,
that's because you're not a true fan. The thing about his work is there are levels to it, and the true fans will see the Easter eggs. They'll see the Batista bombs.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I just thought that was quite amusing.
That is quite amusing. That's good. No.
Yeah,
that is the kind of hard-hitting content that I want on this show. So,
well, that's why I'm bringing back the highbrow.
Yeah, that's good. I've been getting too serious on this show recently. Yeah, you got anything else?
Spinal Tap to be released in spring or summer 2025.
Are you excited about this?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
or trepidatious?
I'm worried.
Yeah,
because
rightfully so. Because Rob Reiner hasn't made a good film in 30 years. Is that why?
It's because, it's the longevity argument.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is, if it is a banger, then I think the Rob Reiner test should stand the test of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've come... Sorry, listeners. But though new listeners to the show, many moons back now, Rory introduced a concept called the Rob Reiner test. That basically it's a barometer of quality for a filmmaker, whether their top 5 films matches the greatness of Rob Reiner's top 5 films. And then I put it to him that modern day Rob Reiner would not pass this test because he hasn't made a good film in 30 years. But now he is coming along with This Is Spinal Tap 2, which could be a good film, but will it though?
I believe so. And also, this is not to give legitimacy to the longevity argument against the Rob Reiner test, but if it is good, then that is quelled.
Okay. But he still has to make another 4 good films, I'd say, after that, to kind of truly get the ball rolling.
No, he doesn't. No. he hasn't got time.
I'm sure he's got loads of time, Rob. It's fine. If you're listening, Rob Reiner, we don't think you're going to die soon.
Yeah, just take your vitamins, mate. Come on. Got more films to make.
Oh, dear. Well, yeah, we can only wonder what that film will be like. I presume most of the original cast are returning. Or is it?
Yeah, and Elton John.
What?
Elton's going to be in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Elton John and Paul McCartney.
Oh, wow, okay. Interesting. As themselves, or...
I'd hope so.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, I'd prefer if they were playing characters. Imagine
it's actually Elton John as Paul McCartney.
I'd love that.
Yeah,
like, see them actually trying to act. It would be like, it would be some kind of face-off kind of thing. You know, Elton John and Paul McCartney switch faces or bodies or whatever it is, and then they do impersonations of each other.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, I'd definitely give that 5 stars. Anyway, well, there we go. So I did actually have some not vaguely serious news, just completely neutral news. But I will start because you are back, Rory. You may remember, regular listeners or old school listeners to the show, that we ran a story about a adaptation of the rubbish Willy Wonka based experience in Glasgow a while ago. Now, do you remember this, guys? That was a thing that happened, and we were skeptical that people would remember that it was a thing in a few months' time. And I'd say probably most people have forgotten. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, an interview on my YouTube came up where the Willy Wonka con man, who doesn't like that title, was on ABC News Australia defending his sort of honour.
Really?
Yeah, that was about a week ago.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, no, it's been very sort of little.
Well, yeah. Well, it seems that they're determined to keep this going, and apparently some original Willy Wonka actors are going to be joining this musical parody. So Paris Themin, known for playing Mike TV, and Veruca Salt actress Julie Dawn Cole are going to be serving as narrators for a reading at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which of course will be happening in August. Now, I wouldn't say this actually suggests that the actual full production is actually going to happen, and I would not be surprised if it goes no further than this Edinburgh Fringe thing, and I kind of feel like this is the perfect location for such a thing. It happens once at the Edinburgh Fringe and then no one ever talks about it ever again.
Yeah, it's a make or break with a couple of has-beens.
Yeah. Like the Brum Picture Show.
Yeah. No, I apologise to Mike TV, or the original Mike TV and the original, was it Veruca Salt?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I don't know what they're up to, but...
Well, they're doing this, apparently.
Fingers crossed.
So yeah, that's an update on that I'm sure you wanted. And in other news that is nicely thematically linked to this week's subject matter, apparently Glenn Powell, star of Twisters and Top Gun Maverick, although I've seen Top Gun Maverick, I don't actually remember him being in it, but I don't really remember things from films.
Yeah, he was the blonde guy, wasn't he?
Oh, the blonde guy. Yeah. Now I remember. But yeah, apparently he could be set to star in a remake of Ron Howard's 1991 firefighting disaster film Backdraft.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Empire Magazine have reported on that, and apparently in a recent interview with CNBC, Imagine Entertainment co-founder Brian Grazer said that it is in the works, maying. So
there we go.
So yeah,
he's the guy now, isn't he?
He seems to be. He's everywhere now.
He's the guy.
And I keep getting him confused with Guy Pearce. He's got a Guy Pearce face, hasn't he?
He's very Pearcey.
And I haven't seen Guy Pearce in a while, so
there we go.
Has he stolen his face?
A rebranding.
There we go. Guy Pearce is rebranded as a younger, slightly better looking man. Good for him.
Yeah, I wish I could do the same.
Me too. But no. But yeah, apparently Ron Howard's on board with it as well. He says it would be really good to adapt. And there are, things that he couldn't do in 1991 that you could do now. Like you can set people on fire more safely. So that's good.
Yeah. Well, the screams aren't as good.
Yeah. Exactly. Really, I'd say you need the realism.
Yeah.
You need people to be in actual peril to make a truly good disaster film. So yeah, we got that to look forward to. That could be good. Who knows? Also, in other remake news related to Glenn Powell, he is definitely working on a remake of The Running Man.
Okay.
Directed by Edgar Wright.
Oh wow, cool.
No, there we go. That's a bit of a more enthusiastic reaction. Yeah. And I think this is a remake that we can get behind because I don't know, the original Running Man, I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen that one.
No. Well, it's good, but it's certainly not great. And that's the kind of remakes that we should be doing. If we're going to remake films, then remake the ones that didn't quite work, that were slightly rubbish. And in fact, because obviously The Running Man was written by Stephen King under his pseudonym Richard Bachman. And, I'd say Stephen King, there's a lot of remake potential in Stephen King's work because there's a lot of bad Stephen King adaptations, and they've for some reason have remade ones that are already really good, or they've just remade ones that already exist that just aren't good.
It's a gold mine, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, exactly. There's a million books to work from. I'm looking at you, Pet Sematary, as a rubbish remake of a mediocre adaptation. So yeah, that's happening. You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and I'm delighted to be rejoined by Rory Rawson, who is going to talk about some disaster films with me today. So yeah, do you like disaster films?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I do like disaster films. I think they can be done they can be quite cheesy.
Yes.
And that can either be done in a great way, sort of like almost like a self-awareness and an irony, or they can take themselves too seriously, and potentially the whole film falls apart.
Yes.
I think there needs to be some sort of comic, like irony or comic, sort of, even with which I'll go on to talk about with Twister. I felt watching it, there was awareness of what the film was.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting one because I guess it very much depends on which disaster you're depicting. Because essentially, disaster films are a commercialization of tragedy, right?
Yeah.
So, it's fair to say that the sillier disaster movies, they get away with it by having completely absurd and fantastical disasters in them. But once you start getting into real life disasters, like, The Impossible, the J.A. Bayona film, which is based on the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami where 250,000 people died, you can't really make that a silly film. And then, of course, you've got things like Peter Berg's Deepwater Horizon about the 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil rig explosion. Again, very real tragedy. So you have to take that kind of seriously.
Contagion as well.
Yeah, which was a fake outbreak of a disease. But
I don't think anyone is watching that film.
I loved Contagion. That is one of my favourite films.
Did you ever watch it during lockdown?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I watched it before lockdown and during lockdown. I love that stuff. But yeah, that's an interesting one. So yeah, Contagion, that's not one that really comes to mind as a disaster film, but it is, because it's all about the logistics of how people deal with this horrible threat that has come down. So there's a very distinct thing. So as always, when we discuss genres or subgenre on the Brum Picture Show, we need to define our terms. And it's fair to say that a lot of films that you might think are disaster films, they're not technically disaster films for the purposes of this discussion. So, as I said, disaster films are about the fetishization of destruction, and it's often entire cities being leveled, but that does not entirely a disaster film make. The point is, with a disaster film, the disaster in question has to be a natural phenomenon, or a man-made accident. It can't be like a specific malevolent force. So one might argue that if Godzilla, were to come to Birmingham and start, stomping on skyscrapers and all that, as a resident of Birmingham, you might go, oh my God, that's a disaster.
Yeah.
Godzilla's here. What a disaster. He's destroyed Broad Street. But it wouldn't be a disaster film.
Yeah.
Because,
no, mate, that's not a disaster. That's not a disaster, mate. This accent's a disaster, mate.
Yes, this is borderline hate crime. Sorry. Sorry, residents of Birmingham. We do live here.
Yeah, I love this place. Yeah, it's fine.
So, the point is you might go, oh, Godzilla, loads of disaster. Yeah. But it's not a disaster film, Godzilla films, nor are films like Independence Day which, obviously that greatly revels in blowing up major landmarks, but that's just an alien invasion movie. Disaster films aren't really about people trying to defeat disasters. They're more trying to, it's often about people trying to prevent a disaster and then trying to survive the disaster. So the thing is with disasters is they're often very quick, right?
Yeah.
They just kind of happen and then it's like, oh God, that wasn't nice. So, the aftermath might be really long, but it's often quite harrowing and boring, and no one wants to watch a film about bodies being pulled out of rubble for 2 hours with a scientist going, I told you so.
Yeah.
People don't want that. No. So therefore, most disaster films spend a great deal of time on the human drama.
Yes,
and you spend 2/3 of the film desperately trying to make us like the characters.
Yes.
And then watch them try to survive at the end. And
Yeah,
then
you're
we're
right.
supposed to care about them.
Usually, there's a lot of sort of minutes at the start of the film going, look at my life.
Oh, yeah.
Look how lovely this is, and my friends.
And then familial drama. There'll often be like a divorced couple or whatever. It's like,
We've got to find our spark. Somebody's got to bring the spark back.
Oh, it's a disaster.
A big volcano comes in.
It's like, I love you. Actually, it kind of really puts things in perspective. A disaster. So it's usually, an hour and a half, 2 hours of human family drama, and often an hour and a half, 2 hours of a scientist going, there's a disaster coming, and everyone's going, no, mate, it's not a disaster.
Don't be silly.
Don't be stupid. And then the disaster happens, and then there you go. So that's it. That is our criteria.
So disaster movies are more drama than disaster, potentially.
I would say in terms of screen time, almost certainly most of the time. And of course, there's exceptions like Roland Emmerich's 2012. There's a lot of disasters going on in that.
But was that Mayans?
It was the Mayan prophecy. It wasn't Mayans causing it.
But is that not supernatural then?
Good point. Does that? Yeah.
'Cause is that a disaster film if it's supernatural?
That's interesting. I mean, it's an act of God, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah.
Is God supernatural? I mean, all disasters are supernatural if you think God, of course.
I'm surprised you're bringing that argument to this table.
No, that's a very interesting point. Email in pictureshow@brumradio.com. Is 2012 technically a disaster film? Because, there is a bit of,
contentiousness there to definition.
There's a magical woo-woo in there. But anyway, point is, disaster films, they've been a fixture of cinema since film began, really. So I suppose because disasters are inherently cinematic, aren't they? People like seeing things blow up. And
you're right in saying, it's like the act of God, because disasters are biblical. So they go back, hundreds of thousands of years. Like Noah, his ark, and all that sort of thing. So,
true story.
Yeah, what's that?
That true story.
That true story.
Yeah.
But they are stories that have sort of prevailed throughout history. So inevitably they would be sort of a big part of our film.
Indeed. I suppose, there has been disasters since the dawn of time. But apparently even back as 1901, there was a film called Fire.
Oh, wow. What was that about?
It was about a burning house.
Oh. Who caused it?
I don't know. I presume you'll have to watch the film.
If it was a pyromaniac, that wasn't a disaster.
Yeah, that's true. It must have been a naturally occurring fire. Climate change, 1901 climate change. And then actually one of the earliest disaster films was from 1912. Can you guess what it was about in 1912?
Plague?
The plague?
Was the plague 19? Was that
the plague in 1912?
Was there a plague?
You're thinking of the Spanish flu. But no, not that.
1912.
What else happened in 1912?
Titanic?
Yes. And get in. And get this. It was premiered 31 days after the Titanic sunk.
Wow, that was quick.
They got in there quick. So, and people thought Oliver Stone's World Trade Center movie was too soon. Nope, we got not even a month later. There you go.
Bums on seats, though.
Bums on seats. It did quite well. See, the thing is, it starred Dorothy Gibson, who was an American actress who was one of the 28 people on the first lifeboat off the Titanic. And then she wound up starring this. So you've got to wonder.
Hang on a second.
It's mad, isn't it?
Now, I'm not suggesting that the director of that film had anything to do with the Titanic incident. But 31 days is a tight turnaround time from film to editing, especially back then.
Yeah, I mean, it was a short film.
How short was the film?
I presume a few minutes.
I hope so.
To be honest. And silent. They didn't have to, worry about that kind of stuff. But still, 31 days. But it is, you do wonder whose idea it was and how she reacted. Or maybe she came back and she was like, guys...
You wouldn't believe what just happened to me.
Let's make a movie now.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But so I'd love to hear a little bit more about the backstory. Unfortunately, it is now a lost film and there's a few production stills that still exist. But no, it reviewed well at the time. But even at the time, people criticized it for commercializing a tragedy. And as we mentioned earlier, that is a thin line that a lot of disaster films have to tread.
Yeah.
But point is, we've always liked them. So I'd say it's safe to say that disaster films have kind of come in waves over the years. So there were quite a few in the 50s and 60s. So you got When Worlds Collide from 1951, which is about two stars on a collision course with Earth, which I don't think is possible. I don't think stars can fly into us, can they?
Stars.
I
thought they were dead, weren't they?
What?
Aren't stars like dead? Or what are they, like dead galaxies? What are stars?
Well, stars are they're basically massive nuclear reactors in the sky, just burning up fuel of smashed together atoms that kind of formed in the early days of the universe. And
that can happen.
I don't think that's the point. I don't think they can fly into asteroids, sure. Yeah. But I don't think a star can just go rogue and then.
What about a shooting star? What's that about?
That's not a star. That's a meteor.
Oh,
anyway, so you got that, and then we got films like 1961's The Day the Earth Caught Fire, which is a really interesting one to watch these days. What with the world actually being on fire quite a lot of the time, but they weren't concerned about climate change in this era. They were concerned about nuclear bombs and whatnot. So in this, the Earth's rotation was slowed down by nuclear bomb testing. And then that causes a climate catastrophe, and then the Earth catches on fire. So that was good. You should watch that. It's a good film.
Oh, sounds good. Yeah. There was a sort of a fear of that, wasn't there, in Oppenheimer? Not that obviously the Earth's slowing down, but it's something it can
set the atmosphere on fire.
Fire. People like
that would be pretty bad.
That'd be pretty bad.
It didn't happen.
No.
So. Cheers, Oppenheimer. Anyway, but then it is safe to say that it was the 70s when the disaster film really exploded. So we got 1972's The Poseidon Adventure, and then we got in 1974, loads of films out in 1974. We got The Towering Inferno, Earthquake, and of course, Airport 1975, which served as inspiration for the classic comedy Airplane from 1980, which it's safe to say has become one of the most famous and beloved disaster movies in its own right.
Top tier disaster film.
Yeah. Even though it is, a spoof and, a comedy, it is still every list that you read of best disaster films, Airplane's in there.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing, isn't it?
I guess it's one of those rare films that's probably top or high up on the list of disaster films and comedies. Comedies as well.
And just a rare film that has kind of surpassed the legacy of its influence or what it's spoofing. It's like if Scary Movie was more beloved and remembered than Scream these days.
Yes.
It would be, it's odd.
It's true. And there is also, have you seen the spoof film Disaster Movie?
I haven't actually seen that. No.
Yeah, I remember watching that when I was 12 and loving it.
Oh, yeah.
Just thinking, this is right up my street.
Yeah. Do you think you'd like it now?
Probably not.
No, but I feel like I should watch it. But I feel like it came out a little bit too late, that one, because I think that was around 2008, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And by that time, the disaster film explosion had kind of waned a little bit by that point. So I feel it was a little bit late to the party, that one.
Yeah, they missed the boat, unlike the director of the Titanic film.
Very good. Yeah. Anyway, so there we go. But and then we've also got less beloved ones from the 70s, like 1978's Avalanche and 1979's Hurricane. But it's safe to say that it was the 90s where the disaster film really reached its peak. So we had a veritable tsunami of disaster films. So we've got Backdraft, we've got Alive, we've got Armageddon, we've got Deep Impact, Twister, Volcano, Dante's Peak, Perfect Storm. Apollo 13 appears on a lot of lists, but I'd say that was almost a disaster movie.
Right.
Because they were okay. They were fine.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah, that's true. And
But-
I don't know, can there be a disaster film about astronauts?
Yeah, sure. I'd say if they made a movie about the Challenger.
What about Gravity? Is that a disaster film? Because I've seen that on lists as well.
I don't know. Not sure enough people dying. I mean, that's a pretty disastrous event. I don't know. That's an interesting one.
I just feel like you've put yourself up there in a very precarious situation.
Yeah.
I think that's
they've got it coming.
I think that's man-made, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it could be man-made. It could be a man-made accident, but there can't be a malevolent agency behind it.
Oh, I see.
You see what I mean?
Yeah,
but if they made a movie out of the Challenger disaster,
then that,
or
totally,
what was the other one, Columbus? How do you make a film out of that? It would be lots of family build-up and drama, and then explodes, and then you're like, oh, they're all dead. Anyway,
sorry for that sidetrack.
Yeah, we're getting into some dark territory, aren't we?
It is the topic of.
I mean, it is. We are literally talking about disasters. Tragedy. But yes, and then of course, in the 90s, we've got Titanic.
Yes,
which is one of the most famous disaster films of all time, and again, just really highlights you got to spend 2 hours making us care about the characters before the ship sinks. Although it really manages to drag out that sinking. I mean, it did take a while to sink, I suppose. So it's not quite as instantaneous as a lot of disasters. So
and I guess also because when you're going into the cinema, you know a disaster's about to happen. So there's this feeling of sort of inevitability about the whole film, or if it's not Schadenfreude particularly. I don't think people enjoy it. I don't know, but there's a feeling of, oh God, they love each other so much. This isn't going to end well, is it?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of that. This is a sidetrack, but I kind of feel like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood plays on that a lot, because you spend the whole film waiting for the tape murders at the end, and then it's a wonderful cathartic release when it does come. But yeah, I guess a lot of the film is that build up of tension and just knowing what's coming. So yeah, that's Titanic, innit? Show me the iceberg. That's the thing, because imagine if Titanic didn't have the human drama in it. It would be.
I think we were saying, imagine if Titanic didn't have the iceberg.
Yeah, they wouldn't have stayed together, would they?
No.
Come on.
That's the perfect thing about tragedy. It keeps relationships together, doesn't it?
Exactly. But yeah, imagine if Titanic, it was just 2 hours of a scientist just going, I'm sure there's going to be an iceberg coming up. Guys, you got to listen. There's an iceberg. They're like, don't be crazy. There's no iceberg. We're just
dancing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you nerd with your white coat.
Shut up.
Lab coat and your glasses.
And then he spends the last hour of the film going, I told you. So anyway, that's a great tragedy. But yes, so the 90s, that was the time. That was the time. And I don't know, what do you think it was about the 90s that people loved disaster movies so much?
I think it might be because the 90s was a great time.
Yeah.
It was pre-social media, but there was an economic boom.
Yeah.
Music was good. I think people needed to find a disaster in their lives.
Yeah.
Because,
that's funny.
For the most part, it was pretty good.
Yeah. We've spoken about this a lot on this show. We've spoken about this on our 1999 episode, and I think we addressed it in an episode we did together at some point. The 90s, it was better, but people debate that very strongly. Yeah,
I'm sure people had a bad time in the 90s.
Yeah, but
generally.
Yeah, but the point is there is apparently an appetite for people escaping into disaster stuff. And I suppose I don't know whether it's got something to do with the fact that technology was kind of advancing, and it was kind of the advent of CGI and stuff, and they could do more spectacular things. So people were just like, wow, we can depict these giant cataclysms on screen better than we used to be able to. So there was just an abundance.
Yeah, definitely.
Of them.
I find that with Twister, again, I think it was supposed to be quite sort of like a revolutionary film, CGI. A lot of those films don't date particularly well, and sort of, because you look back and you go, well, if the CGI is a big selling point, and the CGI now is so much better, but that's not true of Twister.
No, that's not true. Cool. But it is true of a lot of films from that era. I do think they should have just kept CGI secret for a while until they'd figured it out. And instead of there's a whole generation of films that young people just can't watch today because they're just like, that looks stupid. That's rubbish. So maybe they should have just held out until the mid noughties.
That's probably why there's all these remakes now.
Yeah,
like you want to see a volcano? Yeah, we'll do that now. We'll just watch it erupt.
But we're not going to pay our visual artists enough, so it's still going to be rubbish. But still, point is, we can do it better now. It's just a lot of the time we choose not to. But anyway, so the 90s there is an explosion, but it's safe to say that the noughties, the disaster film, went out of fashion. And why do we think this might be?
The plane.
The planes, yeah.
The planes,
yeah. 9/11. Yeah. But that is, I genuinely think that is a major factor in disaster movies going out of fashion, because people had a real life, tragedy that people were saying looked like a movie at the time. And that just kind of ruined people's appetite for seeing that kind of destruction and misery on screen for a little bit. So it is quite a sharp drop off that you see in the noughties. And then, you've still got, Roland Emmerich was still trying to keep it going with The Day After Tomorrow and all that. And then 2003, we had The Core, but that was just stupid. So I think people could kind of forgive that. But it was the noughties that we started seeing a move towards superhero films, and that's where people got their mass destruction.
Oh, right. That's so true. Yeah, put a cape on it.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine,
because that's not real.
That's not real. Yeah. So, big goblin.
So yeah, it's amazing because it was X-Men and the original Spider-Man. They were early noughties, weren't they? 2001, 2002, and that's when the whole superhero thing happened. And I think people just felt, well, we need to get our visual representations of destruction from somewhere, but we don't want to be sad. So put some superheroes in there. So yeah,
that is interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, so the disaster film, it's fair to say, kind of went away for the most part. There was still a few here and there, and especially like in the last 10 years, there's been quite a few Norwegian disaster films. I don't know if you've been keeping up with your Norwegian cinemilms and disaster films in particular, but there's been some stellar films in the genre. So there's The Wave, and that was about a landslide caused by an earthquake, and then you got The Quake, which is about an earthquake, and then you've got the films like The Burning Sea.
Oh, no.
That's when the sea set on fire.
And
then stuff like The Tunnel. So yeah, Norwegians have been doing it, but Hollywood, not so much.
Yeah.
Which is why it's interesting. Now, Twisters has come out and has done really, really well at the box office. Yeah. So is the disaster movie due a comeback? That is the question. Maybe. Let's see. Let's see what happens.
I hope so.
You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and we are talking about disaster movies today to celebrate the release of Twisters. So we've just had quite a general discussion about disaster movies and what counts as a disaster movie, and we've said some tasteless things, to be honest, but but now it is time to talk about not necessarily our favourite disaster movies, but disaster films that we would like to talk about. So, Rory, you've watched a disaster film. What are you going to talk about?
I did indeed. I'm going to talk about Twister, which obviously we've talked about a lot already. And
we'll be talking about its sequel more later, but that makes it appropriate.
Exactly. There we go. I watched it. I liked it. I did really like the film. For the people who haven't seen Twister, in case there's any confusion, there are multiple tornadoes in the film.
Yes. So Twister should have been called Twisters, right?
Yeah, and I feel like the sequel might make you think there's only one. There's multiple, and perhaps with Twisters there's more.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But to be honest, I think the original really makes a deal of the twin tornadoes. And anyway, carry on.
But I thought it's harmless, despite the Twisters. It was harmless, nonsensical fun. Mm-hmm. But and none of it made sense.
Yeah,
in my opinion, and in a brilliant way. Like you can watch it with someone and go like, what is going on here? And you can have fun with it. And it's kind of about these sort of quirky tornado hippies
I love that term. You tornado hippie.
Yeah.
No, it's true though. Yeah,
But they're also scientists.
Yeah, they're storm chasers.
The storm chasers, exactly. And they're chasing it with this machine called Dorothy so that they can throw sensors into the suck zone of the tornado.
Yeah.
Which will reduce the tornado warning from 3 minutes to 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the phrase suck zone is used more than I think it should be. And mostly by the late, great Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, bless Philip Seymour Hoffman.
He gets away with suck zone.
He does.
That's how good he is.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And you got the main protagonist is this guy who's sort of like a tornado whisperer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this scene, I don't know if you remember it, where they're going, where's the tornado going to be? And he just picks up this sort of bit of dirt.
Yeah.
And then he just starts feeling it in his hand. And he goes, it's going to be over there.
Yeah.
So that's his skill. And he's kind of left the wild tornado life to sort of humiliatingly become a weatherman. That's a big source of embarrassment in this sort of world.
Which, to be honest, you should be quite happy to. That's quite a successful job.
I feel like that's a step up, really, from being with these mentalists. And he's engaged to a corporate sort of looking therapist, which again, there's irony that she's kind of the butt of all these jokes, but she's got the most important job out of anybody. And doesn't know anything about tornadoes. Certainly. No. But he keeps getting dragged back to tornadoes by his cool tank top ex-wife.
Helen Hunt,
yeah.
We mentioned it's Bill Paxton in the.
Bill Paxton, yeah. And then so there's this ragtag group, and they're in a race to get sort of the Dorothy machine in the suck zone. And before there's bad guys, and they're led by Dr. Miller, who kind of looks like an evil Steve Irwin.
Yeah,
and they're kind of these bad guys are in tornado science for the money. It's never explained how or what money what money tornadoes could possibly make. Insurance? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting that exact theme is picked up in the sequel. There's another group of we'll get to that. But tornado profiteers.
Profiteers classically. But they're bad guys because they all drive black SUVs. That's when but I feel like it doesn't take itself too seriously. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And and I remember watching it a lot as a kid because it was one of the films my dad had on like a video.
Right, yeah.
So I did watch it a lot as a kid as well. So it was a nice throwback for me.
Yeah, and some really decent effects in it. For 1996, I'd say it really holds up. And of course, there's a flying cow.
That's cool. 2 even, is there, or just 1?
I think. Oh yeah, they do say we've got cows. So it must be multiple. But my image is of the one cow going, just going across the screen. But it's good fun. Like it's classic, classic disaster film. It's great. But that cast, it's just such a wonderful cast, and
it's so good.
And it's it really ticks all the disaster movie boxes, doesn't it? Of human drama and then spectacle.
Yeah, and at points you go, just leave the tornadoes.
Leave them alone. Just leave them alone. Yeah, it's mad. Well, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Oklahoma and these states, like, why do they build houses there at all? Because there just seems to be a tornado. Every 5 minutes there's a tornado coming along. It's just all the time. So it's just like, why would you do that? Why would you bother? But and I'm pretty sure you can't get that close and not die. I don't know. But
I'm not a scientist or a hippie. So.
No, you look like a hippie.
I do, yeah.
You do, with your sandals.
Yeah, my robe.
Yeah, exactly.
My loose robe.
But you enjoyed watching Twister.
Brilliant,
yeah. Anything else?
No, that's my review.
That's your review of Twister. Very good. Yeah, no, Twister is a classic. I actually only watched it for the first time the other week. It slipped me by. That's
a very you film, though, I think.
It is. It's got, Philip Seymour Hoffman. And actually, why do you think it's a me film?
Because it's...
stupid.
No. It's because you like hot messes.
Oh yeah.
And it's not a hot mess.
Yeah.
But I think it's not far from that.
Yeah.
Either, so that's why I thought you'd quite like it.
Right. Yeah. No, I suppose maybe that is.
And
part of why
you're
I like
able.
it.
I feel like you enjoy sitting in a film going, "Oh, this is going to be rubbish."
Yeah, I do to an extent, but I don't think it is rubbish. That's the thing. I saw someone online describe Twister as a 5-star, 3-star film.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is.
Exactly,
like it's it's just brilliant in that way. I'd say my pick is a 4-star, 3-star film, I'd say, maybe, because I'm going to talk about Dante's Peak from 1997. So we're going for a broad range of disaster movies here. We've had an American film from 1996, and I'm now doing an American film from 1997. So
do you think they did add something to the film selection?
She wouldn't. She hates disaster movies, so she wouldn't add anything to this.
Oh, good.
She'd just go, "That's rubbish." But yeah, maybe she does add a little bit of intellectualism. Maybe. But anyway, again, this is by no means my favourite disaster movie, but it is available on Channel 4's catch-up service, and I watched it for the first time the other day, and I enjoyed it, despite it being a bit rubbish. So yes, Dante's Peak. Now, this is a volcano film, and it was unfortunate in that it was overshadowed by Volcano, with Tommy Lee Jones, which was released the same year. And that's another example of the odd phenomenon of extremely similar films being released at the same time. The most famous example probably being 1998's Armageddon and Deep Impact. And I love Deep Impact, but yeah, they're both big asteroid movies. So yes, this stars Pierce Brosnan at the height of his James Bond fame, released the same year as Tomorrow Never Dies. So there you go. And he's doing his accent.
Yes.
Which just...
And I watched the trailer, and if I didn't know the title, I'd be like, is this a Bond film?
Oh, really?
Bond versus Volcano?
Bond does tackle a lot of volcanoes, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
He does. Yeah, no, so it could be. Maybe that's why they thought of him. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, get him in. Get James Bond in. But yeah, so, he's doing his Pierce Brosnan accent, which is impossible to pin down. At first, I thought he was trying to do an American accent, and then I was like, oh no, he's just doing Pierce Brosnan, isn't he? But anyway, and it also stars Sarah Connor herself, Linda Hamilton, who I'm not sure I've ever actually seen outside of a Terminator film. But yeah, and it follows, classic disaster film formula. Opens with a flashback of Pierce Brosnan, a volcanologist, and he's experienced a tragedy whilst researching a volcano. And then we cut to a few years later, and he's haunted by the memory, and he's harboring a vendetta against volcanoes. So when he gets sent to monitor volcanic activity at Dante's Peak, which is at a small mountain town, his concerns are not listened to by his scientist peers.
Sound good, the name.
What, Dante's Peak?
Yeah.
But it's Dante. It's got connotations of hell, hasn't it?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Well, I think that's why they called it that.
They should rename it.
Well, you can't get it more hellish than lava, can you?
No, but if I was a town, I'd be like,
oh, if you're on the tourist board,
yeah, I'd be let's leave the volcano.
Well, apparently this name is not done enough to put people off, because in the film, the town is voted the second best place to live in America. So there you go. And some might call it the second best volcano film of 1997. But I like this. But anyway, so they're all like, no, Pierce Brosnan, don't be stupid. The volcano's not going to erupt. You're just sad because your wife died because of that volcano. And he's like, you got to listen to me. The volcano, it's gonna erupt. But thankfully, there is one authority figure who believes him, and that is the mayor, Linda Hamilton, who of course becomes a love interest because it's the 90s. And yeah, I really enjoy all the build up to it. It kind of reminds me of Jaws, where the impending threat is ignored in the name of putting off tourists. And there's also quite a lot of exploration of the bureaucracy that goes into warning populations about potential disasters and all that kind of red tape. And it was kind of like, do you remember Shin Godzilla, where most of the film was just people debating in rooms how we deal with Godzilla? So yeah, I liked all that stuff. And there's a lot of sciencey stuff in there. So you'd be forgiven for thinking this is quite a serious and worthy film for the most part. But this notion is quickly dispelled when all the volcano stuff kicks in towards the end. Now, of course, disaster films aren't renowned for their scientific accuracy, but for a film that spends so long talking about science, it's quite remarkable how absurd the film's final act is. So it's like they had a team of volcanologists on board for the first, when they were writing the first 2 acts of the film, and then they just kind of sent them home. It says, all right, we're done with you guys. No, we're just going to write the 3rd act.
See
now.
you later, nerds.
Yeah.
Show me the lava.
We've done your bit. We've got all the words out the way now. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, like the 3rd act of this film is just insane. And there's no way that any of them would have survived more than 5 seconds if it was real. So I don't know if you know this, right? Lava, it's really hot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really hot. And you can't really get near it. So if a wall of lava burst through your living room wall,
can you not jump over it or like jump on the sofa or something?
You might think that, but no, you die. So yeah. Also, you can't drive through lava.
No,
Did you know this?
It's too hot.
It's too hot.
It's too hot. Yeah.
Too hot.
You could drive through water.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. He does drive through water as well at a point, actually.
Yeah.
Because he's got his engine's got a snorkel.
Yeah, well,
I think that's real.
In Twister, they drive through a house.
That's true. So there you go. But yeah, he's driving through this lava, right? So at least the film shows that his tyres set on fire. Yeah. But of course, the reality is the whole truck would explode.
Yeah, they'd melt.
Yeah, they'd just die instantly. But no, it's fine. So anyway, it's silly. Oh, and also you can't outrun a pyroclastic flow in a car.
Okay.
You
How
just can't.
fast are pyroclastic flows?
Really fast. You'd be dead in seconds. You can't just drive into a tunnel next to the pyroclastic flow and then expect to survive. But at least Pierce Brosnan does say, that's a pyroclastic cloud. So he uses the words. But anyway, it's stupid. Yeah. But great fun. It is a really enjoyable film, and mainly for its 90s-iness. So there's something, I don't know, that I find there's something soothingly old-fashioned about it. And I've said before, like I find a lot of films from the 90s like a warm blanket, and I like its mountain town setting and whatnot. And some of the effects are pretty decent. So it's before kind of CGI really took over. And despite there's some dodgy green screen, but there's also some really cool miniature stuff, which I like. Yeah. People don't use miniatures enough anymore. Bring back miniatures, I say. It's ridiculous, but I recommend it, sort of.
Yeah.
So, that's
what an endorsement.
I know. So watch it if you want to. It's on Channel 4 catch-up service at the moment.
Oh, okay. Well, that's accessible.
It's accessible. It's possible for you to watch it.
It's a thing you could watch with your eyes.
Yeah. And go, that was all right.
Yeah.
It's Sunday afternoon fodder, and it's just nice to see,
maybe if you're cold.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you're cold, you want to see some lava.
Yeah. It'll warm you right up.
It's a hot summer's day.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I actually, without tangents, I actually tend to like to watch films that match the weather. I like watching westerns in the summer.
It's like 4D.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like watching something like Once Upon a Time in the West, like when it's like really, really hot.
With your cowboy hat on.
Yeah.
And your boots.
And my boots, my stirrups.
Yeah, nothing else.
That's right. Picture that, guys. Anyway, do email us in at pictureshow@brumradio.com with your favourite or least favourite disaster films, if you want to. You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and today we have been talking about disaster films, and it is now time for the reviews section. So the big release, of course, and appropriately for the theme of this episode, disaster movies, we have Twisters. So Twisters has done really, really well for itself. It's excelled box office expectations. So yeah, who knows what this may lead to. But yeah, it's an interesting one. So it's definitely in reboot territory rather than sequel. There's no returning characters or even references to old characters, except for the tornadoes, of course. The tornadoes come back.
They have to come back. So Tony Tornado, he's there. What's some other good names that you could give a tornado? Terry the Tornado. Right, let's move on. Anyway, so this is directed by Lee Isaac Chung, following the tradition of Hollywood choosing small indie filmmakers to do massive pieces of IP. So he made some small dramas, including Minera, I think it was called. And then he did an episode of The Mandalorian, and now here we are.
He's got this multi-million-dollar blockbuster. So it's starring Glenn Powell and starring Daisy Edgar Jones, who I thought I'd seen in more films, to be honest. I've only actually seen her in Fresh, which is a great cannibal film. But I swear I thought I'd seen her in more things.
Yeah, she's got that. She's Normal People. I know it's TV.
That's the thing. She's been in loads of TV stuff, but the only actual film I've seen of hers is Fresh, apparently. But then she was on the poster for that Where the Crawdads Sing film. Yeah. So I saw that everywhere. So maybe that's why I think she's so recognizable. But anyway, so this definitely is maybe in the remake category because it follows the original's blueprint pretty darn faithfully. So again, it starts with a flashback to a disastrous time for our protagonist involving tornadoes. And then it cuts forward a few years to them seeking revenge against the tornadoes. And again, it follows two rival groups of storm chasers with differing ideologies. Would you believe it? So one of the groups is profiteering. Oh, actually, there's kind of three groups here.
Oh, wow.
Well, kind of. Watch the film. You'll find out. But the big update, you see, obviously, they've thought to themselves, we're nearly 30 years in the future. What can we do that's new and fresh with tornado films? And they thought, I know. One, drones.
Oh, yeah.
Get some drones up in there.
Yeah.
And two, YouTubers.
Oh, those guys.
Those guys.
They love filming things.
Exactly. They love filming things. And what looks good on film?
Tornadoes.
Yeah. Getting close to tornadoes. So Glenn Powell is the head of this YouTube channel. Again, Tornado Hippies, and it's also got Sasha Lane in there from American Honey and stuff, and yeah, you think they're the obnoxious people, but maybe you'll realize they're actually quite all right towards the end. But anyway, so Daisy Edgar Jones, she's with this one group of tornado people, then Glenn Powell's with the YouTuber tornado people, and would you believe it, there's some kind of will they won't they love story that develops as they go on with the chasing of the tornadoes,
because I guess in the chasing of the tornadoes and destruction of that, they come together. Yeah.
And they also realise that maybe they're not so different.
Because they both love tornadoes.
That's right. Despite tornadoes being really bad.
Yeah, bad.
They're bad. They're mean. Just coming along.
Twisting everywhere.
Coming over here.
Throwing our cows
around. Destroying our houses. But yeah, anyway. So, I mean, yeah, it's charming. It's quite charming, and it's very old-fashioned in a way, and it does feel like a film out of the 90s, which I kind of like. So I don't know, it reminded me of Top Gun Maverick in a way, in that it was just this strange little relic of a different time. And it's just like, oh.
I do get that. Like Twister reminded me of that, where you could just sit in and just have fun.
Yeah. And it's just like, this is a movie. Yeah. This is a movie. And it's just got that, there's nothing going on in it. Like it's the same with the original film. There's not really much of a driving plot in it, really, because it's just like they chase a tornado does some tornado-y stuff.
Then they run away from the tornado.
Yeah, because they're like, oh God, that's dangerous. Should probably not be so close to that tornado. I know we're tornado chasers, but not a good idea. And then there's a bit of character stuff.
They get some steak and mashed potato from some aunt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that happens. And then they're like, oh, there's another tornado over here. We should probably go chase that tornado. And then, obviously the point is they're trying to stop. They're working on ways to stop the tornado. So in the original, they're trying to study them so they can get a longer warning period. And in this one, they're trying to just stop tornadoes. They're trying to. They've still got Dorothy, which is a load of barrels that release stuff. So they've still got the little spinny sensors from the original film, but this time they're also sending up a load of white substance that's supposed to absorb the moisture in the
suck zone.
In the suck zone, and then they're hoping that will make the tornado dissipate. So that's kind of like the main through line of the film. But of course, it's about the love story and the character stuff along the way. So yeah, it was pretty decent. I liked it.
I think I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, right, I liked it. No, I liked it enough. And it's got some great visual effects, of course. And it tries to ramp up the destruction a bit, from the original, but still it's kind of relatively small scale compared to some disaster films. So it's interesting. Notably, At no point is the phrase climate change used in this film. So there's a big tornado outbreak, but climate change is only really alluded to in one scene where Daisy's mother is saying how wheat prices have gone up. And that was like the one sentence that just kind of go, oh, maybe there's some kind of, broader factors going on here.
Like wheat and cereal.
Yeah. The director came out and said that people didn't want to be preached to in their movies. But I would say, I don't know, a film like Twisters, that's exactly the kind of film that you want to sneak in a little bit of climate change because it's a big populist mainstream thing. You've got everybody going to see it. And, they might go, oh, hang on. That looks quite bad.
Yeah. Maybe I should do my recycling.
Yeah, maybe.
Stop the tornadoes.
Let's get the separate bins. That'll stop them. Exactly. So yeah, it's a questionable decision. But I mean, I kind of get what they go. They just want a safe bet. And if people start hearing about, Twisters is telling us that climate change is bad, they won't go to see it. But having said that, the day after tomorrow, that was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was, 2004. Everyone loved it. Well, no, they didn't. But
Don't Look Up. Everyone hated that film.
Yeah, I love that film.
Yeah,
that's a great film.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's interesting. And also, it doesn't have a flying cow.
What? No.
Well,
You can't be serious.
Okay. Well, actually, there isn't a noticeable flying cow.
What were they thinking?
I know. Well, the director didn't want to do that because he didn't want it to be fan service. However,
what flies?
Apparently, well, no. Get this. Apparently, one of the VFX team snuck in a cow. So there is actually a cow in a tornado at some point in the film.
Wow.
It's just I didn't notice
What
it.
a hero.
And neither the director. So apparently he didn't notice it until it was too late. So apparently there is one in there, but I would have liked to have seen, some more kind of farmyard animal-based tornado stuff. Maybe a flock of sheep or an alpaca.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It'd be good, wouldn't it?
Sort of spitting whilst
it's
going.
But no, unfortunately, not there. But yeah, for the most part, I'm glad it's doing well. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's as good as Twister. I don't think it really needed to exist. But
that's my big thing. I don't think it needs to exist.
No, but the cinemas would disagree with you because basically Twisters has come along and saved cinema. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, I liked it. I liked it enough. Go and see it or don't.
Cool.
So anyway, have you watched any films, Rory? Briefly, quickly.
I've watched The Mist.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
And I was about to ask, is that a disaster film?
No.
Oh, I guess they're aliens, aren't
they're
they?
monsters or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
If it was just a mist, it would be, though, wouldn't it?
If it was just literally a mist, then I'd be wondering what they were worried about.
Yeah. I liked that. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I've watched others, but
yeah,
let's keep on watching movies.
Yeah, even though we've just basically said how disappointed or mediocre most movies are, keep on watching, guys. So yeah,
save the industry.
There you go. Anyway, so that is about all we've got time for this week on the Brum Picture Show. But of course, we do have time for Nadine's roundup of local news and events. And somehow she has managed to send a voice message from the land of Oz.
Wow.
Where she's currently residing, if you were listening to the beginning of the show.
They've got good Wi-Fi there.
Yeah, apparently. Anyway, so here we go. Nadine, what's happening?
On the 31st of August, Sturchley Open Cinema will be showing Medusa Deluxe at 90 Degree Barbers. On the 1st of August, Boxer Short Films will be at Pan Pan in Digbeth. The prompt is In Your Feelings. On the 6th of August, Journey Film Club will be showing Mrs. Doubtfire at the Birmingham LGBT Centre. On the 10th of August, Blue Velvet will be showing at the Mockingbird, £3 Cinema Club, highly recommended. On the 12th of August, we'll be showing, Screen Booth 14 will be showing Enter the Void, 15th anniversary screening of Gaspar Noé's classic at the Mockingbird Cinema. Tickets are available at the Mockingbird website. Oh, it's gone eerily calm. That must be over.
Well, thanks, Nadine. Some exciting stuff happening indeed, and we look forward to you coming back on the show, hopefully with Rory as well, and we'll have the Dream Team reunited. Do be sure to tune in next time, but in the meantime, it's goodbye from me, Paul.
And goodbye from me, Rory.
Goodbye.
You have been listening to The Brum Picture Show, a Screen B14 production for Brum Radio. Tune in next time for more film fun, and don't forget to email us at pictureshow@brumradio.com. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Yeah, movie. It was a good movie. Anyway, but yeah, maybe it's just
not going to make the end. That card, mate.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.